My Beast of Boggy Creek book came out in 2012, and that was sort of my initial research into the case, trying to cover all the historical aspect of it, the making of the movie, and up to date on the modern encounters. When I turned in the manuscript, the encounters went up to about 2009, 2010, before I turned the manuscript in. And then, of course, since then, there's been a number of good sightings that have come out. Some of those were documented in our Boggy Creek Monster documentary film from Small Town Monsters. And since then, there has been more sightings. And that's pretty much any time I'm talking about Boggy Creek on a podcast, a radio show, a television show, or just casual conversation, everybody says, has there been any new sightings? That's what they want to know. I was on the NPR radio the other day for Texarkana, and I was just waiting for that question to come up, because I did that interview, I think Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday I did that interview. It's been a crazy week. And she said, so have there been any new sightings? I said, well, as a matter of fact, it's a good thing you asked, because just Sunday night, there was a sighting up there, a good one, by some credible individuals that live near Fouke. I got this report because, of course, if you see the Fouke Monster, all information must come this way. You dial up my hotline. I use this joke constantly. Hello, this is the hotline for Lyle Blackburn. If you've seen a Bigfoot, dial 1. If you've seen the Yeti, dial 2, etc. If you've seen the Fouke Monster, press 0 right now, because that's going straight ringing through to me. And sure enough, the report went like this. The women said they were driving up Highway 71 north towards Fouke. It was later in the evening, around 7 p.m. They were not far from the area where Boggy Creek actually crosses Highway 71. And 71's the old thoroughfare through there, not the new 549. And as they were casually driving and talking, one of them said, "What was that?" And they looked up, and something ran from the woods on the Sulphur River side and ran across the road. They said it was big, it looked like it was moving upright, and it cleared that road in about 4 strides. When they kept driving, they looked down a road. They had just come upon the turns to the right, and only goes to the right. It's called 134. And whatever this thing was still running right down the middle of the road, and it was pretty far down the road, a good ways. Well, they just couldn't turn in time, so they had to go down, and they turned around and came back and headed back down 134, slowly looking to see if they could see whatever this thing was that had run across there. But by the time they got there, it was gone. This was a good witness, because they weren't blowing a trumpet saying, "We saw the Fouke Monster." They were mostly inquisitive to know if I had heard of any other reports right in that area lately, because I think they wanted to kind of corroborate and justify to themselves that they had seen something strange. They didn't say they were 100% sure, but they said they were pretty sure that whatever this thing was, it wasn't a person, it wasn't a small animal, it wasn't running on all 4s, it was running upright on 2 legs. And I always try to rule out what it could be. Was it mistaken identity? If I can rule out common animals, we're left with a couple of other things, a hoax. You got to consider that. There could be some jokesters up there in that area in a costume. But a person in a costume cannot clear Highway 71 in 4 or even 5 strides. You would have to move pretty fast and have long legs. And you certainly couldn't run down an extent of road 134 for any distance. If you're going to pull off a hoax, you're going to pop out of the woods, hey, what's up? Back in the woods. You don't run right in front of a car on Highway 71 and keep running in full view where they could see this thing running down the middle of the road. So I thought this is a very good sighting. I followed that up by checking with some other individuals who live nearby. I verified that these were truthful and trustful individuals, and they said absolutely. If those persons said they saw what they saw, I believe they saw it. And so that's good. I was able to sort of do a background check, if you will, through my hotline. I'm going to run a background on a couple of witnesses up there in Fouke. And the report came back good. So I haven't gone up there to look at the exact spot, but I know that spot. I've driven by there many, many times. And in fact, over the years, there's been a number of sightings along this 134 because it turns and it just cuts back through the woods. And that's about a little bit south of Fouke where it starts getting boggy. Pun intended, boggy, it is boggy. There is a boggy creek, and it also boggy because there's a bayou back there, McKinney Bayou. And this area runs back through the woods. You can't really develop it. They've been trying to sell me property right there for years. Seriously. You should buy that. Like, dude, it's in about 2 feet of water. I can't build my dream home on that. I mean, I could. It'd be on stilts. It'd be a whole big problem with that. But it's mucky. And not a place likely to where somebody would pull off a hoax. But it is likely where the creature could run past and run quickly back into those woods and disappear and nobody see it again. So that's been the latest sighting, and that was cool. I was like, this is perfect. I can tell everybody at the conference I got some real updates here. Exciting stuff. Thrills and chills, and there's a lot more thrills and chills even coming later this evening. We got some real surprises here. We got some sneak peeks at stuff that hardly anybody in the world has seen. We got a special guest coming here in a little bit. Part of my Fouke Monster update was going to be announcement over some this is big news for Legend of Boggy Creek. There's something been in development. You've probably seen some of the news about it. It has to do with the actual film, the original film. There's been some exciting developments, but I'm going to hold back on saying more about that because even better, we've got somebody coming very soon who is much closer to the film than even I am, or even Keith. Because Charles Pierce's daughter, Pamela Pierce, just happens to be making a trip down here on some business, some Boggy Creek business, and she is on her way right here to the conference. And this is the first time she's appeared in public to talk about this. She's taken it upon herself to do some heavy work here with the film and some new developments. So she's going to actually be here later, and I'll introduce her. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on. And so I'll hold that big update for then. Let's see, what else? I don't have a new Boggy Creek book out, but there will be a third one it will be a trilogy. You know, I've got The Beast of Boggy Creek, and I've got Beyond Boggy Creek. And people often come up and goes, what's the difference? Well, this one's Boggy Creek, and this goes beyond Boggy Creek. But, you know, you have to explain books. I got to have the synopsis. So Boggy Creek goes beyond, and I talk about all the sightings throughout the Deep South because, as we all know, if you're sitting in here, you well know there's dramatic stories that have been reported all over the South. Great sightings, great stories, great evidence, all that sort of stuff. So that's what I did with Beyond. But in the third book, I will be going back to Boggy Creek because so much of this stuff has occurred since the other books have come out. And I'm sort of letting it ferment, like a fine wine, or more like a fine moonshine. Boggy Creek and wine, nah, I don't go. Moonshine, yeah. Boggy Creek moonshine, There's an idea for you. If you work for a distillery, just give me a little royalties off that. Boggy Creek Moonshine. Keith, you listening? But where am I going with this? Oh, so I'm letting it ferment. So Back to Boggy Creek will be the third and final book in that Boggy Creek trilogy, and it's still in development because so much of this stuff that I was working on all these years and trying to kind of make a resurgence and document all that and write a book about the making of this amazing movie that affected me, not only me as a kid, but people remember fondly, especially in the Bigfoot community, but just elsewhere. And speaking of that, did anybody see me on the Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In special? Anyone? A couple of you. Hey, cool, man. I thought I saw you on it, though. Was that you, or was that me? Or me or you? It was aired on the Shudder channel. The Shudder is a streaming horror channel. Who knows who Joe Bob Briggs is? Okay, yeah, Joe Bob Briggs. So he's back, he made a special, and he talks about drive-in classics. That's his shtick. He's from Arkansas, and he knows a lot about these old drive-in movies. And of course, one of the classic drive-in movies is The Legend of Boggy Creek. So when he ran this special, which was a marathon of 13 films that ran back to back, and he's kind of like Elvira. He talks about the movies in between breaks. And when they did the Boggy Creek episode, he had me on it, which was a huge honor because I'm a huge Joe Bob Briggs fan. And I previously worked with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, so I thought, this is the greatest. It's like the duo of drive-in classics, of cheesy horror movies and things. So it was cool to be on that show, and they had me on to discuss Boggy Creek, and impromptu, they're like, hey, this was shot in one take, and they kind of asked me about this, about singing something on the show, because they know I'm a musician, but I'm like, I don't know, man, let me just talk about it. But in the middle of taping, they're like, hey, we decided we're going to sing the song Hey Travis Crabtree from the film, and I'm like, oh God. So, it's guys over there playing it, and Joe Bob and I are singing, Hey Travis Crabtree, wait a minute for me, and I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it worked well. And a lot of people said, oh, it was my favorite part when you guys sang the song from The Legend of Boggy Creek. So it's on the internet, forever now. So thankfully people thought it was entertaining, but it was cool. But again, that just shows you, there's the Shudder channel, the horror channel, they're going to do a special, and within the 13 favorite drive-in movies that they were going to broadcast, Legend of Boggy Creek was one of them. And it was cool because they called me because I was able to provide some perspective on the history and that this was based on true sightings. And he asked me if I knew any crab trees. I said, yeah, I know more crab trees than I know in my own family. But anyway, so back to Boggy Creek, I'm sort of trying to be the J.R.R. Tolkien of Boggy Creek. It's like Lord of the Rings, but, Lord of the Swamp, I don't know, but that's kind of what I've been working on. So someday there will be a third book, and just to kind of complement the work I've done with Boggy Creek, which is essentially a very 1970s sort of Bigfoot case. I mean, this came out in 1971, it hit the newspapers, and the movie came out in 72. It was early 70s. And that's one thing I love about it. I love the 70s, I don't remember a lot of the 70s, but I love it. There's a lot of cool stuff came out of the 70s. Golden Age, Bob and them shot the film in 67, but it was in the 70s when it was coming out, a lot on television. You saw the documentaries. So it was a good time for Bigfoot and for mysteries and, Bermuda Triangle and ghosts, everything. And so there was another case that I'd read about when I was young about Momo, the Missouri monster. And I always remembered that as a favorite from the 70s. So I've got a new book coming out about Momo. We're also going to do a Small Town Monsters film next year. on Momo, and so it's very much of that 70s flavor, much like Boggy Creek, and out of that same time period. So we're looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to doing that, and hopefully get another book out very soon, because people walk by my table and go, yep, yeah, I got all that. I've even got the t-shirt, both t-shirts. What else you got? I just can't do it fast enough, because I'm out here talking about Bigfoot, and I'm out in the woods doing research. So there's been so much, but it's so fun to be able to do that and share all this stuff with you guys, and it's a pleasure every year. So in between all that, if I'm not busy enough, I've teamed up with one of my best friends ever on a new project, and this developed out of the Small Town Monsters, because with Small Town Monsters, Seth Breedlove, the director and head of the Small Town Monsters company, and the team has been able to circumvent meddling networks, investors, people telling you what to do. We just want to offer straight up good informational films shot in a nice way and narrated by a dude with a nice syrupy voice. And I didn't make that up. I saw a couple of reviews. It said, it's like syrup, warm syrup. People say that, and the best one was, I saw something online, it says, Lyle Blackburn is fast becoming the Morgan Freeman of monster documentary narration. I'm like, hey mom, look at this. Yes, I made it. So that was cool. But all jokes aside, Small Town Monsters has showed that we have the technology, and in that case, if you have some backers from a crowdfunding source, you could cut out all the middleman and stream this straight to Amazon. And I know people keep asking, what network is it on? There's still that kind of a thing going on with networks, but somebody's looking at me.
Just set the mic down. Drop the mic. Top.
Right into you, everybody.
That's how it usually works. Right place, right time, or wrong place, wrong time. But, you know, I would say, you know, keeping up with the Legend of Boggy Creek things, and back here, Billy Bigfoot, and I know y'all have seen him, he's got some Boggy Creek arts and crafts. He is putting it up, but keep him in mind because he is fast becoming a great vendor for that venue of the Legend of Boggy Creek. Back in, I'll just tell this where y'all may not have known this, but I did mention this in talking about Bob Gimlin last night. I got to know Smokey Crabtree very well. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and got to the point where, okay, are y'all?
Thank you, Brian. That was totally amazing. Woo! Brian Empey, everybody. When you need a dude to step in, this is it. So yes, there's some cool stuff coming up, and so I should say that Pam Pierce is going to be here at 9 o'clock. So in between now and then, we're going to treat you.
She's got a 3-minute clip of the digitally remastered Legend of Boggy Creek.
Oh, God. Okay, you're going to, yeah, this is a night to see a lot of stuff. She's got a 3-minute clip of the remastered, and I might as well just tell you, we've been working on this for years, but a restoration of the film, a restored, fully restored 4K transfer from a good print. And that's basically what happened. I've been looking for a print for years. People kept saying, oh, how come we can't get a Blu-ray on this? I'm like, the problem is finding an actual good print of the film is harder than finding the Fouke Monster. I found the Fouke Monster. I got Keith right there in the back. But we couldn't find a print. So Pam and I have been working together, and Pam has really stepped up and gotten a hold of the rights to the movie and gotten rid of all the nonsense. And so she has been in the process of working with the Eastman Kodak Museum on this restoration project. I mean, this is hot off the press. She just got this in her hands, so she's going to come here in a little bit and show you. And I will tell you, I've seen pictures. What you've seen on the DVDs or what's in your mind is no comparison to the way it looks. When you see it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's how it should be shown. Like you can see stuff so clearly. It's cool. So she's going to be here at 9 and talk about that. So in between, as I was saying, my black hat cohort here, Ken Gerhardt, get up here. With the technology that we have to do streaming services and bring you our own films, we thought, hey man, wait a minute. People have been telling us for years, dude, you guys should have your own TV show. We're like, well, we know that, but you need to tell the networks that. And not a silly TV show, not a goofy TV show, and not what we get nearly on a weekly basis. I can't even tell you the premise that I got an email this week from somebody proposing a show. I was like, is this for real? You know, we don't even answer them. But now with what we've done with Small Town Monsters, we thought, well, maybe we can make this TV show happen. We could actually do this ourselves and create a more of a television version where you follow us on investigations, because we had always said if you just simply put a camera in the car, follow us on an investigation, show these interviews with these credible witnesses, and show us going out into the areas where these had occurred, it could be the basis for a cool television show. And I know people have complained about network television, it doesn't show real research. Okay? I know we've all complained about that. And the thing is, it's television. They have to make an entertaining show, obviously, and they have a lot of, you know, commercial investments and all this they have to live up to, and they spend a lot of money to make those shows. But we don't have to answer to those people, and we can offer you something that's more realistic, real research. So what we're going to do is show you a sneak peek of the television show we're working on, which is called
American Monster Tour. Thank you. We'd like to give a shout out to Colton Wolford. Colton, will you please stand up? This is our director of photography, editor, amazing technical abilities. So much credit to him.
Turn around and show his shirt.
Oh, you want to show your shirt? Oh, wow, that's a classic. First one? Wow, he was at the, yeah, did you want to say something? Daniel, are we ready to key that up?
Okay, but yeah, so what we want to say is, this is a very ground roots thing. When you're watching this, just remember it was made literally by this guy, and Colton. We had one other camera guy who was there shooting second camera, but the show was made with no network funding, no money,
No script.
no script.
Completely genuine, authentic. This is what people have been asking us for, so this is what we're doing.
So we hope you enjoy us. Again, this is a very sneak preview, and the questions that will come up are obviously, hey man, when is this coming out? We don't know the answer to that because this is self-funded, so it's a little slower, especially when you're talking about a series type thing. We want to release at least a season. You don't want to put one out and then a year later there's another. It's not just a standalone film, so it's a little more challenging. And by showing this to you, we've been able to get some good feedback. We've showed it a couple of times, but this is the first time that it's been seen in Texas. Please do not film this, obviously. Don't take pictures or post on the internet. This is just for your special treat only. It's about 44 minutes long. This is the first episode. It's not a Bigfoot subject, but it is cryptids. We've also shot a Caddo creature episode, but we didn't have time to get that edited together. But this is called Oklahoma Demon Flyer. It's the first episode. And what else can we say?
Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for sticking around.
Thanks very much.